Hello, everybody. So, I don't want to be that YouTuber that says I told you so, but it feels good to take a victory lap once in a while. The most important thing that I was looking for, and I didn't know it was going to come this call, but it was the announcement of the off-patent GLP-1 liraglutide. Liraglutide was the Victoza Saxenda. Saxenda is a version for weight loss. It is the original GLP-1. It's actually the second GLP-1 ever released, but the first GLP-1 was a twice daily injection. This is a once daily GLP-1, once daily injection GLP-1, and it came off patent. This year, they've been working through patent exclusivity with Teva. It will be off patent exclusivity come early 2025. And HIMSS, they've announced in the shareholder letter that they are working on it. They are working on the liraglutide GLP-1, the generic version. So they're going to be able to sell a generic GLP-1. This is an enormous news. This means that in the marketing and in every advertising and everything else, there will not be interrupted access to the GLP-1. The only downside, of course, of the HIMSS liraglutide GLP-1 is that it's once daily. But when we think critically about whether that's a downside or not, I think it's important to understand that people who get GLP-1 from HIMSS, they don't get the easy pen, right? They don't get the easy pen that you would get with the official Ozempic, because that's patented. No, they are people which by definition are already familiar and they're okay with the injections. And so I don't think the once daily injection versus once weekly injection, I don't think that's going to make that big of a difference. And it will be an easy way for HIMSS to not lose the customers that got accustomed to the GLP-1 compounded version of, say, Ozempic. My view is that a lot of them will move to the generic GLP-1, the generic liraglutide, when that gets released. And so that was a big news. And of course, we don't even know. I mean, compounded semaglutide is not in shortage anymore, but they have the product coming up to replace it if the not in shortage remains, and if it becomes available. My guess is that they'll be able to sell plenty of this generic GLP-1. That was the most important part of the quarter for me. But let me just go through the letter, through that quarter here. So what's going on? They did very well. The revenue grew 77% year over year. It's much higher than I was anticipating since I've covered the stock. 77% year over year, it's accelerating. The growth is accelerating. A lot of that growth has to do with the extra demand in weight loss products. The stock is only up 4%. And I don't understand why, because they're going to have a generic GLP-1. So at the end of the day, 80% of that fear should be gone. They're going to have a generic GLP-1 come early 2025. And the end of the emergency use authorization of a compounded version of Ozempic, that's not right away. That's either 6 months or 3 months, depending on how they qualify. If they qualify as a big compounder or as a small compounder, I think they qualify as a big compounder. Therefore, like I said, I don't understand why the stock is only up 4%. That's okay. Let's talk about an outstanding thing, the outlook. They've increased the outlook every time. I went back to each annual letter, not annual letter, but the quarterly letter from the CEO. So they had given guidance in Q1. They had said they'll do 1.2 billion. And then they updated it in Q2. They said they would do 1.3 to 1.4 billion. Now they are 1.46 billion. So they keep updating the guidance. That's 3 times in a row that they've increased the outlook. So this is quite outstanding. And if I am to show you right here, what I really like about this outlook is, you see, we've had a pickup in revenue. We've had an increase in revenue in Q3. You can clearly see that acceleration in the revenue and that acceleration in the average monthly payment by subscriber at 67. I think some of this may have to do with the fact that people have been stocking up on these GLP-1s, as I was commenting on, reading Reddit, reading TikTok, TikTok, all of that, a lot of people have been stocking up with GLP-1s. And so Hims was one of these companies that allowed them to order in bulk, to buy in bulk. Regardless, I think we've had a major reduction in the threat thanks to the fact that liraglutide is coming. That's a big deal. They've crossed the 2 million subscriber mark. So they now have 2 million subscribers, the 44% year over year. Like I said, the monthly subscription is up 24%, 67. So not only do they sell to more people each year, they also sell more to the existing people. So they increase the average basket in addition to increasing the number of people who purchase that basket. So you get two sides to the growth. You got some exponentiality to that growth. And look at the operating expense. This is exactly what we look for. When you look at operating expense, you want to see it go down. Every single aspect of Q3 24 was lower operating expenses than Q3 23. They've lowered their operating expense in every single category, whether it's R&D, as G&A, administrative, operations, and marketing. Marketing, look at the market slowdown in marketing. They're spending less in marketing. So this is a business who's picking up steam. This is a business that is beginning to achieve very, very satisfactory operating leverage, and we should see that in the profitability number. We do see that in the profitability number. For those of you who look at income was way up this quarter. I look at EBITDA on this channel. That's my metric that I look at. EBITDA is trending in the really good direction. Adjusted EBITDA is now, let's round it up to 13%. They're at 13% adjusted EBITDA. Now, over the long term, they've guided about 25% over the long term. That's where they hope to get in adjusted EBITDA. Don't forget, when you look at these profit numbers, a lot of these cash flow proxy in the case of EBITDA, but a lot of these economic earnings number or proxy for economic earnings has to do with the fact that marketing is seen as an expense. And this is the big debate of business. Is marketing an expense when you are building a brand, when you are creating mind share, when Hims is becoming more and more famous? Is it really an expense or is it an investment? I view it as an investment in the case of Hims, which is why in the early days of the channel, if you remember, I wasn't even looking at things like EBITDA margin in the early days of the channel. I was just looking at gross profit because I usually trust the firms to spend the money right. In the case of Hims, they've spent that money after the cost of goods sold. That operating expense is not really an expense in my view. Yeah, sure, G&A is an expense, but R&D is not an expense, and marketing is not an expense, and a lot of operations, investment in customer service, things of the sort, that's not an expense. That's an investment. It's a business that reinvests in itself. So, trailing 12-month revenue, $1.342 billion. Outstanding over trailing 12 months. And the question is the stock cheap? How cheap is it in my spreadsheet? Well, look at this number, 77% year-over-year growth. The growth has accelerated. So my spreadsheet, as you know, is all about the forward revenue growth. How much growth do we think they're going to have across the next 12 months? How much growth do we think they're going to have? My number I've taken historically was 53%. I've had 53% in my spreadsheet for over a year is what I was thinking they would grow. You can see I've been wrong. They grew at 77%. They grew higher than what I was anticipating. But even using a sandbag number of 53% revenue growth, I'm still getting a 0.076, which is still the second cheapest stock that I have in my spreadsheet. Now, what if I take a midpoint? I say they're going to grow 65% next 12 months. What if they grow 65% next 12 months? I get a 0.062. So that would be right there, cheapest, like still second cheapest, but extremely cheap. Rule of 40 is 78. And look at this. If I were to assume they're going to grow at 80% going forward, what if the weight loss craze continues, right? What if they introduce more products? We can throw a lot of what ifs. This is a company that has been growing like a weed. What if they were to achieve this again? Then you would be paying a 0.05, and right there you would be the absolute cheapest with a rule of 40 at a 93. So, I don't understand why this stock is still so cheap. A major cloud in my view, has been removed when they are going to offer generic for Victoza, Saxenda, i.e. liraglutide. When they offer liraglutide, I think a major cloud of them not being able to offer Ozempic or semaglutide or tirzepatide, I think that major cloud is going to be removed because let's look at the marketing. What do people know about it? They know about the GLP-1. People know GLP-1, right? Glucagon-like peptide. That's what they want. They want a GLP-1. Liraglutide is a GLP-1. With all of these brand names, there's a good 7 different brand names. I doubt a lot of the customers are getting into the granularity of the brand names. They are going to go for the generic, even though it's a once daily injection. And don't forget, if you're a long-term investor, which I absolutely am, we have Trulicity dulaglutide, which is a once weekly GLP-1 that they've stopped promoting as soon as the newer drugs have been introduced. They've stopped promoting that one, but that one used to be popular a few years back. Trulicity, i.e. dulaglutide, that's coming off patent in 2027. So if you're a long-term investor like me, you know that there's going to be a lot of GLP-1s that are going to be off patent and that a company like Hims, in my view, is going to be able to offer. Sorry if I focused a lot about weight loss. Hims is much more than just a weight loss story. But right now, it's what the market cares about. I will be doing a more comprehensive coverage of Hims as soon as I'm done listening to the call. So thank you so much for watching. This was not investment advice, just entertainment. Hoping you were entertained. Please like, please subscribe. Thanks for watching. Have a wonderful day.